Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe. Jackson Cole gripped the joystick of his aging spacecraft, the Star Wanderer, his knuckles white. Space wasn't kind to old ships, and the asteroid field around Xylos Prime was proving particularly unforgiving. At 30 years old, Jackson felt every one of them, each dent on the Star Wanderer a mirror of his own weariness. He was a freelancer, a space trucker hauling cargo between star systems, chasing a payday that always seemed just out of reach. "Computer, give me a status report," Jackson rasped, his voice hoarse from days of recycled air. "Asteroid density increasing, Captain," the ship's AI, a calm, almost soothing voice, responded. "Evasive maneuvers recommended." "Easier said than done, Hal," Jackson muttered, dodging another space rock. "This bucket of bolts can barely outrun a solar flare." Suddenly, a large asteroid, hidden in the debris field, loomed into view. Jackson swore, wrenching the joystick. The Star Wanderer shuddered violently, alarms blaring as the ship's shields flickered and died. "We've lost primary power to the engines," Hal announced. "Collision imminent." Jackson braced for impact, his heart pounding. The Star Wanderer careened through the atmosphere of a nearby planet, a blue-green orb shrouded in swirling clouds. He glimpsed a landscape of lush forests and towering mountains before everything went black. When Jackson regained consciousness, he was hanging upside down in his harness, the cockpit a mess of sparking wires and broken glass. He groaned, his head throbbing. The Star Wanderer had crash-landed in a dense forest, its hull embedded in the soft earth. "Hal, status report." Jackson yelled, his voice strained. "Engines offline, Captain," Hal responded. "Life support systems compromised. Hull integrity critical. But most importantly, Captain, you are alive. And I have detected life forms." Jackson fumbled with his harness, releasing himself and falling to the floor with a thud. He grabbed his laser pistol from its holster and cautiously made his way to the ship's airlock. With a hiss, the door opened, revealing a sight that made Jackson forget his aches and pains. He stood on the edge of a clearing, surrounded by trees with bioluminescent leaves that cast an ethereal glow. And standing before him, were the Aralonians. They were tall and slender, with skin the color of a summer sky, ranging from light turquoise to deep azure. Their features were delicate and beautiful, with large, expressive eyes that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. They wore simple, flowing robes of woven plant fibers, adorned with intricate patterns of beads and crystals. There were dozens of them, maybe more, their faces a mixture of awe and curiosity as they gazed upon Jackson. He was the first human they had ever seen. Jackson lowered his laser pistol, realizing he wasn't in any immediate danger. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Hello," he said, his voice still raspy. "My name is Jackson. My ship crashed. I need help." The Aralonians gasped, their eyes widening. One of them, a young woman with bright blue skin and long, flowing hair, stepped forward. She was strikingly beautiful, her features radiating a gentle serenity. "Welcome, Star Traveler," she said, her voice like the chime of wind chimes. "We are the Aralonians. We have awaited your arrival." Jackson frowned. "Awaited my arrival? I just crashed." This was not a planned visit. The Aralonian woman smiled. "Our prophecies spoke of a man of Earth who would fall from the sky. We believe you are he." Jackson rolled his eyes. Prophecies? He was a space trucker, not some messiah. "Look, I appreciate the welcome, but I just need to fix my ship and get out of here." The Aralonian woman tilted her head, her eyes filled with concern. "But why would you wish to leave? We can offer you anything you desire." As she spoke, Jackson noticed the other Aralonians drawing closer, their eyes fixed on him with an almost unsettling intensity. He felt a strange energy emanating from them, a sense of wonder and fascination that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. One of the Aerolonians, a tall, muscular male with deep azure skin, stepped forward. He reached out and gently touched Jackson's arm. "Your skin," he said, his voice a low rumble. "It is so, pink." Jackson recoiled, feeling a flush rise to his cheeks. He was used to being the average guy, blending into the crowd. But here, he was a novelty, an alien curiosity. "I'm sure I look just as strange to you," Jackson said, trying to lighten the mood. The Aerolonians chuckled, their laughter like the gentle rustling of leaves. They continued to stare at him, their eyes filled with fascination. Jackson felt increasingly uncomfortable. "Look," he said, "I really need to get my ship fixed. Can anyone help me?" The Aerolonian woman nodded. "Of course, Star Traveler. We will do everything we can to assist you. But first, you must come with us. We must show you our city." Jackson hesitated. He needed to fix his ship, but he didn't want to offend these people. Besides, he was curious. What was their city like? What other strange customs did they have? "Okay," Jackson said. "I'll come with you. But I'm not staying long." The Aerolonians cheered, their voices echoing through the forest. They formed a procession around Jackson, leading him away from the wreckage of the Star Wanderer and into the heart of their world. As he walked, Jackson couldn't shake the feeling that he had stumbled into something far bigger than a simple crash landing. He was a pawn in a prophecy, a curiosity to an alien race. And he had no idea what awaited him in their city. Hopefully, you like this opening. I'll continue with the next parts as soon as you're ready. Just let me know when you want me to proceed. Focus on getting my ship fixed. This parade, this whole thing, it's nice, but it's not helping me get home," Jackson said, turning to Lyra, who was still gazing out the window with a dreamy expression. Lyra blinked, startled. But everyone wants to see you. It's a great honor." "Honor or not, I need to get off this planet," Jackson insisted. "Is there anyone here who knows anything about spacecraft repair?" Lyra frowned, tapping her chin thoughtfully. "Well, there's Elder Theron. He's the keeper of our ancient technologies. He might know something about your ship." "Theron, huh? Where can I find him?" "He lives in the Sky Citadel, high in the mountains. But it is a long and arduous journey, only undertaken by the most devoted pilgrims." Jackson sighed. "Of course, it wouldn't be easy. Well, I guess I'm about to become a very devoted pilgrim. How do I get there?" Lyra hesitated. "Princess Nova has forbidden anyone from disturbing you. She wants you to enjoy your stay here." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "I'm starting to think enjoy is not exactly what she has in mind." He strode towards the door, Lyra hurrying after him. "Wait. You can't just leave. The princess will be furious." "Then tell her I've gone to admire the scenery," Jackson said, grabbing a cloak from a nearby rack. "And maybe find someone who can actually help me." He slipped out of the room and into the palace corridors. The halls were teeming with Aerolonians, all eager to catch a glimpse of the man of Earth. Jackson ducked and weaved through the crowds, trying to avoid attracting attention. He was beginning to feel like a prized exhibit in a very strange zoo. He finally made his way to the palace gates, where 2 guards stood watch. They recognized him instantly, their eyes widening in surprise. "Star Traveler. Where do you think you're going?" one of them asked. "Just taking a walk," Jackson replied, trying to sound casual. "Getting some fresh air." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. "But the princess." "The princess wants me to be happy," Jackson interrupted. "And I'll be much happier if I get to see more of your beautiful planet. Now, if you'll excuse me." He strode past the guards, leaving them sputtering in his wake. He exited the city and began his trek towards the mountains, which loomed in the distance like jagged teeth. The landscape was breathtaking, with lush forests, sparkling waterfalls, and strange, colorful flora. But Jackson had little time to appreciate the scenery. He was focused on reaching the Sky Citadel and finding Elder Theron. As he walked, he encountered small groups of Aralonians, who stared at him with open curiosity. Some offered him gifts of fruit and flowers, while others simply bowed their heads in reverence. Jackson tried to be polite, but the constant attention was starting to wear him down. After several hours of hiking, he reached the foothills of the mountains. The path became steeper and more treacherous, winding through rocky terrain and dense forests. Jackson was tired and hungry, but he pressed on, driven by the hope of finding someone who could help him. As dusk approached, he stumbled upon a small village nestled in a mountain valley. The villagers, a hardy and weathered people, welcomed him with cautious hospitality. They offered him food and shelter, and he gratefully accepted. That evening, Jackson sat by the fire with the village elder, a wizened old Aralonian named Phelan. "So, you seek Elder Theron?" Phelan asked, his voice raspy. "Yes," Jackson replied. "I need his help to fix my ship." Phelan nodded slowly. "Theron is wise, but he is also enigmatic. He lives apart from our society, lost in his studies. I heard he was the keeper of your ancient technologies." "That is true. But he is also a dreamer, a seer. He speaks of things that few can understand." Jackson frowned. "What do you mean?" Phelan hesitated. "There are whispers of an ancient prophecy. A prophecy that speaks of a man of Earth who will come to Aralon." Jackson's heart sank. "Another prophecy. Let me guess, I'm the man of Earth." Phelan shrugged. "Perhaps. Or perhaps you are simply a traveler who has lost his way." "I'm just trying to get home," Jackson said, exasperated. "I don't want to be part of any prophecy." Phelan smiled sadly. "Sometimes, destiny chooses us, whether we want it or not." The next morning, Phelan led Jackson to the path that led to the Sky Citadel. The path was steep and winding, and the air grew thin with each step. Jackson's legs burned, and his lungs ached. But he kept climbing, driven by a mixture of desperation and determination. Finally, after hours of grueling ascent, he reached the Sky Citadel. It was a magnificent structure, built into the side of a mountain, with towering spires and shimmering crystal windows. The air was crisp and clean, and the view was breathtaking. As he approached the entrance, he was greeted by two Aralonian monks, their faces serene and their eyes filled with wisdom. "Welcome, traveler," one of them said. "Elder Theron has been expecting you." Jackson followed the monks into the Sky Citadel, his heart pounding with anticipation. He was finally going to meet the one person who could help him get home. The monks led him through a series of winding corridors, past ancient artifacts and strange devices. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber, filled with books, scrolls, and astronomical instruments. Seated at a large table, surrounded by stacks of parchment, was Elder Theron. He was an old Aralonian, with long, white hair and a flowing beard. His eyes were bright and piercing, and his face was etched with the wisdom of ages. "Welcome, Jackson Cole," Theron said, his voice deep and resonant. "I have been expecting you." Jackson stared at Theron, his mind racing. "You know my name?" Theron smiled. "I know many things, Jackson Cole. I know that you have come to Aralon seeking help. And I know that you are destined for great things." Jackson groaned inwardly. "Here we go again." "Look, Elder Theron," Jackson said. "I appreciate the welcome, but I just need to fix my ship. Can you help me or not?" Theron chuckled. "Patience, Jackson Cole. All things in their time. First, tell me why you wish to leave Aralon." Jackson frowned. "Because I have a job to do. I have people who are counting on me. I can't just stay here and play the role of the man of Earth. Theron nodded slowly. And what if I told you that your destiny lies here, on Erelon? My destiny is hauling cargo between star systems, Jackson retorted. I'm not some chosen one. Theron's eyes twinkled. Perhaps not. But you have a role to play in the future of Erelon. A role that only you can fulfill. Jackson sighed. He was starting to realize that getting off this planet was going to be much harder than he thought. He was dealing with a people who believed in prophecies and destinies, and who saw him as something more than just a stranded pilot. What kind of role are we talking about? Jackson asked cautiously. Theron smiled enigmatically. That, Jackson Cole, is something you will have to discover for yourself. What kind of role are we talking about? Jackson asked cautiously. Theron smiled enigmatically. That, Jackson Cole, is something you will have to discover for yourself. Jackson sighed, running a hand through his hair. This was getting him nowhere. Look, Elder Theron, with all due respect, I don't have time for riddles. I need to get my ship fixed, and I need your help. Can you tell me if you know anything about spacecraft repair? Theron studied Jackson for a long moment, his eyes piercing. Finally, he nodded slowly. I know a great deal about spacecraft repair, Jackson Cole. Our ancestors were great travelers of the stars, before we chose to withdraw from the galaxy. Jackson's ears perked up. So, you can help me? I can. But first, you must prove yourself worthy. Jackson groaned. Worthy? What do I have to do, slay a dragon? Recite an ancient poem? Theron chuckled. Nothing so dramatic. I simply wish to test your knowledge, your ingenuity, and your spirit. Test me how? I have several tasks for you to complete. If you succeed, I will help you repair your ship. If you fail, you must remain on Erelon and fulfill your destiny. Jackson hesitated. He didn't like the sound of that last part. But he had no choice. He was stranded, and Theron was his only hope. Okay, Jackson said. What are these tasks? Theron smiled. The first task is to solve the riddle of the crystal caves. The crystal caves are a network of underground tunnels filled with ancient crystals. Within those crystals lie the answers to a riddle that has baffled our scholars for centuries. You must find the answer and bring it to me. Jackson frowned. Sounds complicated. And dangerous. Indeed, Theron replied. The crystal caves are guarded by strange creatures and treacherous traps. But I believe you are capable of overcoming these challenges. And if I solve the riddle? Then you will have proven your knowledge. The second task will then be revealed. Jackson took a deep breath. He had a feeling this was going to be a long and difficult journey. All right, Jackson said. Where are these crystal caves? Theron pointed to a distant mountain range. They lie beyond those mountains, in the Valley of Whispers. Be warned, Jackson Cole. The Valley of Whispers is a place of great power, and not all who enter return. Jackson nodded, trying to hide his apprehension. He had faced dangers before, but this felt different. This felt like he was stepping into the unknown. I'll leave at dawn, Jackson said. Theron smiled. May the stars guide your path, Jackson Cole. The next morning, Jackson set out for the crystal caves. He was equipped with a map, a compass, a laser pistol, and a small supply of food and water. He also carried a small crystal that Theron had given him, which was said to protect him from the dangers of the Valley of Whispers. As he journeyed towards the mountains, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He glanced over his shoulder several times, but saw nothing. The landscape was eerily silent, the only sound the wind whistling through the trees. After several days of travel, he reached the Valley of Whispers. It was a desolate place, filled with jagged rocks and twisted trees. The air was thick with an unnatural energy, and Jackson felt a prickling sensation on his skin. He consulted his map and headed towards the entrance to the crystal caves, which was marked by a large stone archway. As he approached the archway, he heard a faint whispering sound, like voices carried on the wind. Jackson hesitated, his hand on his laser pistol. He felt a sense of unease, as if he was trespassing on sacred ground. He took a deep breath and stepped through the archway, into the crystal caves. The caves were even more eerie than he had imagined. The walls were lined with crystals of all shapes and sizes, which glowed with an otherworldly light. The air was cold and damp, and the whispering sound was louder now, swirling around him like a ghostly chorus. Jackson cautiously made his way through the caves, his laser pistol raised. He felt like he was being watched, like unseen eyes were following his every move. Suddenly, a creature emerged from the shadows. It was a large, insect-like being, with glowing eyes and razor-sharp claws. It hissed menacingly, blocking Jackson's path. Jackson fired his laser pistol, but the creature dodged the blast with surprising agility. It lunged at him, its claws extended. Jackson ducked and rolled, avoiding the creature's attack. He fired again, hitting the creature in the chest. It shrieked in pain and retreated into the shadows. Jackson took a deep breath, his heart pounding. He had survived the first encounter, but he knew there would be more to come. He continued his journey through the caves, facing more creatures and treacherous traps. He dodged falling rocks, leaped over bottomless pits, and solved ancient puzzles. Finally, after days of exploration, he reached the heart of the crystal caves. In the center of the chamber was a large, pulsating crystal, which radiated a blinding light. As Jackson approached the crystal, the whispering sound grew louder, until it was almost deafening. He felt a strange energy flowing through him, filling him with knowledge and understanding. Suddenly, the answer to the riddle of the crystal caves flashed into his mind. It was a simple, yet profound truth, a key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. Jackson smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He had solved the riddle. He had proven himself worthy. He turned and began his journey back to the Sky Citadel, eager to share his discovery with Elder Theron. As he emerged from the crystal caves, he felt a sense of relief. He had survived the dangers of the Valley of Whispers. He had faced his fears and emerged victorious. But he knew that his journey was far from over. He still had more tasks to complete, more challenges to overcome. And he had a feeling that the greatest challenges were yet to come. He was no longer just a stranded pilot, trying to get home. He was something more. He was a pawn in a prophecy, a key to the future of Erelon. And he was beginning to accept his destiny, whatever it may be. The journey back to the Sky Citadel was uneventful. Jackson arrived exhausted, but triumphant. He was immediately ushered into Theron's presence. "Welcome back, Jackson Cole," Theron said, his eyes twinkling. "I see you have returned with the answer to the riddle of the crystal caves." Jackson nodded. "I have. The answer is..." He spoke the solution to the riddle. Theron smiled. "Correct. You have proven your knowledge, Jackson Cole. You have passed the first test." Jackson felt a surge of pride. "So, you'll help me fix my ship now?" Theron's smile faded. "Not yet, Jackson Cole. There is still the matter of the second task." Jackson groaned. "Of course, there is. The second task is to retrieve the artifact of the ancients," Theron said. "It is a powerful relic, hidden deep within the Forbidden Forest. It is said to possess the power to heal the sick, control the elements, and even raise the dead." Jackson's eyes widened. "Sounds dangerous." "Indeed," Theron replied. "The Forbidden Forest is guarded by ancient spirits and powerful beasts. But I believe you are capable of overcoming these challenges. And if I retrieve this artifact, then you will have proven your ingenuity. The third and final task will then be revealed." Jackson took a deep breath. He was starting to feel like he was trapped in a never-ending quest. But he had come this far. He couldn't give up now. "All right," Jackson said. "Where is this forbidden forest?" Theron pointed to a dark, foreboding forest in the distance. "It lies beyond those mountains, shrouded in mist and shadow." "Be warned, Jackson Cole. The forbidden forest is a place of great darkness, and not all who enter ever return." Jackson took a deep breath. He was starting to feel like he was trapped in a never-ending quest. But he had come this far. He couldn't give up now. "All right," Jackson said. "Where is this forbidden forest?" Theron pointed to a dark, foreboding forest in the distance. "It lies beyond those mountains, shrouded in mist and shadow." "Be warned, Jackson Cole. The forbidden forest is a place of great darkness, and not all who enter ever return." Before dawn, Jackson prepared for his journey. He checked his laser pistol, replenished his water supply, and ate a protein bar. He was no woodsman, but he'd survived worse. As he left the Sky Citadel, Theron's words echoed in his mind, "The artifact is guarded by what you fear most." Jackson tried to think of his greatest fear, but all that came to mind was failure, and a side of loneliness. The trek to the forbidden forest was arduous, taking him through treacherous mountain passes and across raging rivers. The landscape grew darker and more oppressive with each step. The air grew heavy with a strange, unnatural energy. The sun was blocked out by twisted branches and gnarled roots. An unnatural quiet hung in the air, broken only by the occasional rustle in the underbrush or the screech of an unseen bird. As Jackson entered the forest, he felt a chill run down his spine. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the shadows seemed to deepen around him. He drew his laser pistol, his senses on high alert. The deeper he went, the stranger the forest became. The trees seemed to twist and contort into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching out like skeletal arms. Strange, luminous fungi grew on the forest floor, casting an eerie glow. The air was thick with the smell of decay and damp earth. Suddenly, he heard a rustling in the bushes ahead. He froze, his finger on the trigger of his laser pistol. A moment later, a creature emerged from the shadows. It was unlike anything Jackson had ever seen before. It was tall and gaunt, with long, spindly limbs and glowing red eyes. Its skin was pale and translucent, and its face was contorted into a grotesque mask of pain and suffering. The creature hissed, its voice a raspy whisper that seemed to claw at Jackson's mind. It raised its hand, its long, bony fingers trembling. Jackson fired his laser pistol, but the beam passed harmlessly through the creature's body. It was as if it were made of smoke and shadows. The creature lunged at Jackson, its claws extended. Jackson dodged the attack, narrowly avoiding the creature's grasp. He fired again, but the beam continued to pass through the creature without effect. Jackson realized that his laser pistol was useless against this creature. It was something else, something beyond the realm of physical weapons. He had to rely on his wits and his instincts to survive. He remembered Theron's words, "The artifact is guarded by what you fear most." Was this creature a manifestation of his deepest fears? He thought about his life, his failures, his loneliness. He had always been afraid of being alone, of dying alone, of fading into obscurity without leaving a mark on the world. He looked at the creature again, its face a mask of suffering. He realized that it wasn't just a monster. It was a reflection of his own pain and fear. He lowered his laser pistol, took a deep breath, and spoke to the creature. "I'm not afraid of you," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm not afraid of my fears. I'm not afraid of being alone." The creature hissed, its eyes glowing brighter. It lunged at Jackson again, but this time, Jackson stood his ground. He closed his eyes, took another deep breath, and embraced his fears. He accepted his loneliness, his failures, his imperfections. Suddenly, the creature shrieked and recoiled. It writhed in agony, its body dissolving into a cloud of smoke and shadows. Jackson opened his eyes. The creature was gone. In its place was a small, ornate chest, resting on the forest floor. He approached the chest cautiously. It was made of a strange, dark metal, inlaid with intricate carvings. He reached out and opened the chest. Inside, he found a small, glowing orb. It pulsed with a warm, gentle light. He reached out and touched the orb. As he touched the orb, he felt a surge of energy flow through him. He felt his pain and his fears dissolve away. He felt a sense of peace and acceptance wash over him. He realized that this was the artifact of the ancients. It wasn't just a relic. It was a source of power, a source of healing, a source of hope. He closed the chest and turned to leave the forbidden forest. As he walked, he felt the forest around him change. The trees seemed to straighten and grow taller, the shadows seemed to dissipate, and the air grew lighter and cleaner. He emerged from the forbidden forest feeling like a new man. He had faced his fears and conquered them. He had found the artifact of the ancients. He returned to the Sky Citadel, eager to show Theron what he had found. As he entered Theron's chamber, he saw that the old Aralonian was waiting for him. "Welcome back, Jackson Cole," Theron said, his eyes twinkling. "I see you have returned with the artifact of the ancients." Jackson nodded. "I have. It was guarded by a creature that embodied my greatest fears. But I faced it and overcame it." Theron smiled. "Indeed. You have proven your ingenuity, Jackson Cole. You have passed the second test." Jackson felt a surge of pride. "So, you'll help me fix my ship now?" Theron's smile faded. "Not yet, Jackson Cole. There is still the matter of the third task." Jackson groaned. "Of course, there is. The third task is the trial of the heart," Theron said. "It is a test of your compassion, your empathy, and your willingness to sacrifice for others." Jackson frowned. "What does that involve?" "You must choose between your own desires and the needs of another," Theron replied. "The choice you make will determine not only your fate but the fate of Aralon." Jackson felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. This sounded like the most difficult task yet. "What kind of choice are we talking about?" Jackson asked cautiously. Theron looked at Jackson, his eyes filled with sadness. "Princess Nova is very sick, her blue skin is now gray. The artifact can cure her and also fix your ship. You can only pick one option. Your choice will determine the future." Theron looked at Jackson, his eyes filled with sadness. "Princess Nova is very sick, her blue skin is now gray. The artifact can cure her and also fix your ship. You can only pick one option. Your choice will determine the future." Jackson felt as if a bucket of ice water had been thrown over him. He stared at Theron, his mind reeling. He had come so far, overcome so many obstacles, and now he was faced with an impossible choice. He thought of Princess Nova, her beauty, her curiosity, her genuine fascination with him. He hadn't asked for her attention, but she had shown him kindness and hospitality. He also thought of his own predicament, his stranded ship, his responsibilities back home. He longed to return to his familiar life, to the mundane routine of hauling cargo between star systems. But could he really condemn an entire planet to a slow, agonizing death just to get back to his old life? Could he turn his back on a people who had welcomed him with open arms, even if their adoration was a little overwhelming? He looked at the artifact of the ancients, glowing softly in his hand. He knew that it possessed the power to heal Nova and to repair his ship. But he could only choose one. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and thought about what Theron had said about sacrifice. He realized that true compassion meant putting the needs of others before his own desires. It meant being willing to give up everything for the sake of someone else. He opened his eyes and looked at Theron. "I choose to heal Princess Nova," he said, his voice firm. Theron smiled, a look of relief washing over his face. You have made the right choice, Jackson Cole. You have proven your compassion, your empathy, and your willingness to sacrifice for others. You have passed the trial of the heart. Jackson felt a sense of peace settle over him. He knew that he had made the right decision, even though it meant giving up his chance to return home. Theron took the artifact of the ancients from Jackson's hand and approached Princess Nova. He gently touched the orb to her forehead. A surge of energy flowed from the orb into Nova's body. Her skin began to glow with a faint blue light. Her eyes opened, and she looked at Jackson with gratitude. Thank you, Jackson, she said, her voice weak but clear. You have saved my life. Jackson smiled. You're welcome, Princess. As Nova recovered, Jackson realized that he had made a connection with this planet and its people. He had become a part of their lives, and they had become a part of his. He decided to stay on Erelon, to use his skills and knowledge to help them rebuild their society and explore the galaxy once more. He worked with Theron to unlock the secrets of their ancient technologies and to develop new technologies that would benefit both humans and Erelonians. Over time, Jackson became a respected figure on Erelon, a bridge between two worlds. He taught the Erelonians about human culture and technology, and he learned from their wisdom and their compassion. He never forgot his home, but he found a new home on Erelon. He found a new purpose in life, a purpose that was far more meaningful than hauling cargo between star systems. Years passed, and Jackson grew old on Erelon. He lived a long and fulfilling life, surrounded by friends and loved ones. As he lay on his deathbed, surrounded by Princess Nova, Elder Theron, and a crowd of weeping Erelonians, he smiled. He knew that he had made a difference in the world. He had helped to create a better future for both humans and Erelonians. He closed his eyes and whispered his last words. Thank you, Erelon. Thank you for giving me a home. And with that, Jackson Cole, the space trucker who had stumbled upon an alien world, breathed his last and became a legend. The story of the man of Earth, who had fallen from the sky and changed the destiny of a planet, would be told for generations to come, a testament to the power of compassion, sacrifice, and the enduring bonds of friendship between different worlds. The end. I believe this ending provides a satisfying conclusion to Jackson's arc, fulfills the prompt's requirements, and stays within the desired word count. I hope you enjoyed the story.